Welcome to Page Turners. What's the story, Justin? What are we reading now?
Welcome everyone to imaginativevisions.com. This is Page Turner. So what's the story, Justin, today? Well, the story is, there we go, Precious Ugly by Rae Cline. So we're going to talk about it. So here is a brief synopsis that I will read for you. And here we go. Clementine is a girl in trouble. She's homeless. She's living in a conversion van at a campground tucked in this little stretch riverfront. She's hungry, craving Pop Tarts while forced to eat fried snakes for supper. And she's pregnant. Daddy says he'll fix it, but unlike Mama and the folks who believe he can walk on water, Clem knows better than to trust her daddy. And this was gripping, gripping book. So let me talk a little bit more about it. Some books pull you in because you want to know what happens next. Others pull you in because you're invested in the person trying to make it through whatever happens next. And that's the best way I could describe Rae Celine's Precious Ugly. It falls firmly into that second category. At the center of the novel is Clementine. She's 13 years old, and her family has fallen on some severe hard times, and they're living at the campground, like I said. Her father, Jude, has become increasingly consumed by alcohol, religion, and this belief that something greater is waiting for him, while mom tries to hold together a family that has already begun breaking apart. And Clementine watches all this with this awareness of someone who has had to grow up much faster than she should. Even in the opening chapter, she's already thinking about an escape and imagining that might be another life waiting somewhere beyond the campground. And Clementine, hands down, obviously, is the most easily favorite part of the book. And Rae Celine gives her a voice that feels young without making her naive. She understands far more than the adults around her realize, but there's still moments when you are reminded that she's only 13. She can be sarcastic, stubborn, funny, and occasionally reckless. And underneath all that is a kid trying to figure out what safety, love, and normacy are supposed to feel like. And that balance makes her feel like a complete character instead of someone who's existed only so the novel can put her through terrible circumstances. While Clementine is definitely my favorite character, her relationship with her father is also a driving force of the story. And you also have other additional characters here, but it's such a gripping tale because you see that, like I said, I like how she was written. She is 13 years old, and but she has this sense of maturity to her due to the circumstances in the book, which I felt did a really great job with that. But I want to talk a little bit more about some of the characters and the writing style of Ray. The supporting characters are also important because they expose Clementine to people who do not operate according to the rules she has learned at home. You have Beater, the young campground manager, is one of the more interesting examples. He becomes someone Clementine can talk to and trust while still being a flawed person dealing with his own problems. And Klein wisely avoids turning him into the traditional heroic figure who appears suddenly and fixes everything. His limitations are part of what makes it believable. Then you have Nurse Rosemary was another character I really truly enjoyed, and she brings this warmth, this humor, and much needed sense of practicality whenever she appears. And while other characters often talk about miracles and destiny or waiting for things to eventually improve, Rosemary approaches life in much more simpler terms. Sometimes a person needs food, sometimes they need someone to sit beside them, sometimes they need to be told that they can still continue even when what happens to them cannot simply be erased. And that perspective becomes an important contrast to much of what Clementine has been taught. And just to talk about just uh, the client's use of imagery in this book is really, really effective because Clementine remembers being taught that something can appear ugly when examining closely while becoming beautiful when viewed as part of something larger. And I love the way she is told that beauty is about more than physical appearance. It's connected to what someone does and what they can contribute. So there's a lot of good, use of imagery here, a lot of good, strong themes, and also how important music, books, and movies are to the character. And Klein fills the novel with references to artists such as Patti Smith, Johnny Cash, Cyndi Lauper, and Billie Holiday, just to name a few. And of course, some literature and classic horror movies. And these references are more than nostalgic decoration. Clementine uses these stories, these songs, and movies as a way of understanding emotion. And like I said, I'm not giving you too heavy on the plot, but if I had to say that I felt like that was really well executed because art becomes another language for the girl to really deal with what she's dealing with. If I do have some criticism, is that the symbolism occasionally becomes heavier than necessary. There's this strong recurring image and themes, but there were moments that I thought the novel could have trusted those images to speak for themselves. But like I said, that's just me being nitpicky. But overall, I will definitely want to give up. I want to go to our final score here. I'm keeping this very vague because there's a lot of plot in here that I do not want to spoil. I'm gonna bring up our shelf score, and I'm going to give Precious Ugly a full shelf. This was a excellent, fun, gripping read. Clementine is a definite memorable protagonist, probably my favorite this year so far. And Rae Cline's creates this atmosphere, and the novel finds moments of humor and tenderness without really keeping by still keeping the tone of seriousness as the subject matter. So I'm highly going to recommend you guys check out this book. Precious Ugly, I will have to say, it's probably one of my favorite books so far that I've read this year. I highly recommend it. This is a gripping, moving, it's just a really well written character study. And I highly recommend you guys check this out. This is Justin from Page Turners from imaginativevisions.com. If you like what we do here, hopefully we'll earn your subscription. So please hit the like button, subscribe button, and notification bell. I'll be back with more book reviews and more content here on the channel and on the website. Catch you later. Later days.